Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will begin the webinar here shortly in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and deploy a poll here. So go ahead and check that out and let us know in the chat or in the poll who is joining us today. And like I said, we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, we can go ahead and get started here. Just to answer a quick question here, somebody mentioned, will this webinar be recorded and published? Yes, it will. We are recording live right now, and the webinar will be published on our website as well. And I apologize, the poll did not get deployed. So if you did not see the poll, do not worry. You're great. There was not one that was deployed, so I apologize for that. But thank you for joining us this afternoon or evening, morning, wherever you may be. Welcome to the College Orientation Summer Webinar Series. My name is Caitlin Dobson. I am the Senior Associate Director for Orientation and Transition in the College Programming and Orientation Office, and I'll be serving as a moderator for this webinar today. Today's webinar is about pre-registration for your autumn quarter classes. So you'll learn more about the resources available through the advising office and making the most of working with your academic advisor and preparing for that pre-registration period for the autumn quarter. The majority of the webinar will be a presentation today by our college academic advising team with a Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions, please feel free to submit those questions via the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screens. And we'll do our best to go ahead and get through as many questions as possible, either in the chat or answer live at the end. So I have three staff members here with us today from our college advising office. So we have Catherine McElravy, Emily Ho, and Justin Foe, and they will be with us today to go ahead and lead our presentation and answer some questions for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Catherine.
Awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. I'm just going to go ahead, share my screen, and then, yeah, we'll get started. Okay, I think you all should be able to share my screen now, or you should see my screen now. Um, but yeah, let me know if you're not able to. But okay, well, welcome to the autumn pre-registration webinar. We're really excited to see you all here, and this is really exciting. Hopefully, by now you met with your advisor and you're getting ready to sign up for your classes and start that next step in this process. So, our office will be, the advising office is co-presenting today's webinar with the registrar's office, who oversees student data, academic systems, and classrooms for the UChicago community. So we're really grateful to have them here with us. Okay, and just to start with some introductions, so I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Catherine McElravy, and I am a senior academic advisor in the advising office. I'm also joined by Justin Fu, who is an academic advisor, and Emily Ho, who is the associate university registrar for enrollment services. So that's who will be helping out and talking with you all about the enrollment process. Okay, so for today, Our presentation will first begin by going over an introduction of our registration process. It might look a little bit different than what you all have seen previously, whether from your high school or from another institution. So we'll be going over that. Then we'll also go over how to find and interpret your placement test results within My U Chicago too. We'll then discuss the steps that you'll take to prepare for pre-registration, and then we'll end with a live demonstration of the system as well. Of course, if you do have questions during the presentation, Justin will be moderating the chat function to aggregate and respond to your questions, which we will also answer some during the presentation, but then we'll save some to be answered out loud at the conclusion of our presentation for today. So when writing in a question, please keep your questions to the topic of the webinar. And if you do have any other questions and you would like to ask the advising office, please email your assigned advisor following the presentation. Okay. And just quickly, as we get started with things, I'd like to just share our learning outcomes that we would like to make sure that you walk away with after our meeting together so that you feel ready for next week. So by viewing this webinar today, you'll be able to describe the two-phase registration process, starting with pre-registration and then add drop. You'll be able to locate and interpret your placement test results in your UChicago portal. We'll outline how to prepare for pre-registration, and then we'll also go over how to navigate that pre-registration process and systems within the portal too. So by the end of today, we'll be able to go over all of this, and hopefully you'll feel, confident going into next week. Okay, so we're going to start with the big question, and maybe some of this has also come up already, but what is pre-registration? What does that mean? So at UChicago, we have a two-phase registration process. So the registration at UChicago involves pre-registration and add drop. During pre-registration, students select and rank their preferred courses for each quarter of enrollment. Then an algorithm is run in the registration system to maximize their top choices based on several factors, including their year in this college, what the spot is for that ranking, and then to also fit in for a student schedule based on the timing of those classes that were selected too. So the algorithm in general does prioritize first and second year students for core classes. So you'll have a higher priority for these courses compared to maybe older students during those first 2 years. And with older students, alternatively, they will have preference for major classes, so like computer science, economics. So it may be more difficult for them to get into core classes later on. But then that's typically what that system process looks like. I will say pre-registration is not first come, first serve. So there is no advantage to getting it done right at 9 a.m. Of course, if you're welcome to, but you don't need to submit it then. It'll be open the whole week from August 17th, 9 a.m. Central Time, all the way to Friday, August 21st, and closes 5 p.m. Central Time. Really key to keep in mind the 5 p.m. Central Time. It closes 5 p.m. sharp, so please make sure to submit your rankings before then. And also what's nice about it not being first come, first serve is that you can change your mind about your selections during the pre-registration week. So you can go back, update it, and adjust your rankings as much as you want. So if you want to change around your math class time, maybe from a 10:30 priority to like a 2:30, you are able to make those adjustments throughout the week. So so while the system itself, in some cases, students may get into all 4 of their classes through pre-registration, great. Sometimes maybe it would be 3 or so. The system does allow the college to place a high number of students in high demand courses before the second phase of the registration process. Okay. So then phase two of this is add drop. And the add drop process is when students can make changes to their schedule in real time, meaning that this part of it is first come, first serve. So for transfer students, add drop period will open on September 8th. For first year students, it'll open on September 10th. Um, so that's something to be aware of also with add drop period. The time leading up to the end of the first week of the quarter is also known as open add period. So during this time, if you do see a spot open in a class, a student can add themselves into that class as long as they meet the prerequisite course requirements. This is also the time of if you have plans to take Writing 101, you would be adding that class during add drop period. So this would be the time to do that, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later on too. Um, so add drop period will be going on for the majority of September. After week one ends in the quarter, instructor consent is then needed to add a course later, like if it was going to be during week two or week three. Not every instructor will allow students to add in a class during week two, just in case too much material was covered. And then what's also nice is that students can drop a course from their record through MyU Chicago until the end of week three. So if you were starting out in four classes, but then realized, oh, maybe I do want to go to three instead, you can do that within the first 3 weeks of the quarter. After week three, though, any change with like removing a class is considered a withdrawal. So just something to be aware of there. But of course, questions about that, you can always let us know or your academic advisor. And then all students must be enrolled in 300 units at the minimum each quarter. So within, if you do need to make changes, making sure during add drop period that, by the time the quarter starts, you have 300 units, which is typically equivalent to 3 classes. Okay, so as you all are here and getting ready for next week, incoming student pre-registration will happen in the MyU Chicago portal. Um, it'll open on Monday, August 17th, and it'll go through the 21st. So it opens at 9 a.m. And like I said, it'll close 5 p.m. sharp Central Time on that Friday, the 21st. So during this time, you might, be able to then like adjust, rank those classes. You'll also hear terminology on bidding for classes, which is what we sometimes use for ranking a top choice or ranking a class within various course offerings. Um, and then after the 21st, the algorithm will run and place you into courses based on your availability and based on like meeting, those prerequisites, whatever that might be, and the timing of those classes as well. And then you will see your final changes to your schedule in your MyU Chicago portal on September 4th. And like I said before, if we need to make any changes or if you decide to make any changes with your schedule, you can then do that during the add drop period. Okay, so we did an overview about what our system is here, what that system is like, but it's also really important to know the exact classes that you would want to look at ranking for pre-registration. So we're going to pivot and then talk about your placement test results and maybe ranking one of those classes for pre-registration. Okay, so this is a screenshot of your MyU Chicago page that you should see when you log in. So to find your placement results, you first have to log in to MyU Chicago, and you'll see a few different arrows here. But in this middle one, you'll see a welcome, and next to the welcome, you'll see test results. And that's where you'll see any of those test results for placement exams you might have taken over the summer. You will also see in here under like the alerts area, if you have any holds on your account. This example doesn't have any holds on their account, but it is helpful to check and just be aware of. And the box would be red if there was one. We also can see two blue banners that are sharing some updates on system maintenance and registration processes. So please make sure anytime you log into the home page to pay attention to any important information that might be displayed. So we definitely don't want you to ignore any of that. But for today's purposes, we're going to go to test results. Okay. And then once you select on test results, you'll see if you had any AP scores sent that we had received and any placement exams that we received too. So in this example, we can see some sample placements. And yeah, at U Chicago, we typically refer to class numbers of just by the first three digits. So, as an example, like for that start in French 10300, we usually will just say French 103. Same thing with math, where it says start in math 13100, we'll say math 131 or 131. So those are some of the placement results there. Also, in this example, this student has a 5 on the AP French exam, and this would fulfill the language competency requirement based on those AP scores. Um, so if they were continuing, planning to take French, they are welcome to, and then can enroll in either the French or Spanish course that are on here. But if anything, they did already meet that language competency requirement with their AP scores. So other thing to keep in mind is that for math, this student did test into math 131 or the 112-113. And if that student were to test in any or wanted to select any other math course, like if they wanted to select Calculus 3 instead, like a Math 153, the system would not allow that enrollment since the placement is not on file. For math courses, you must enroll in your placement or wait to discuss your results with the math department later in September. So for pre-registration, the system will be looking at the placement exam results and will enroll you accordingly if you do meet those placement exam results. Okay, so just some other notes with test results and AP credit. So if you were to follow along and logged into there and you didn't see anything in test results section or in the My Chicago portal, there might be some action needed. If you sent your scores or completed the placement exams prior to July 20th, you should now see those results posted in the system. If you may have taken a placement exam between July 20th and August 10th, you should see those in there August 31st. So if you just took your placement exams or you have yet to complete an exam or submit AP credit, please do this really as soon as possible, but ideally by September 2nd, or it may impact schedules or things with autumn quarter classes. So, and like I said before, the placement results impact what courses you'll be allowed to register for. You'll be unable to register for a course if it does not match your placement on file. So if I, in this example was to have placement for Chemistry 101, but I tried to enroll in Chem 111, the system would not allow me to do so. It would be a wrong placement. The same is true for classes with prerequisites. So for example, Computer Science 141, which is Introduction to Computer Science, requires students to have a Math 151 placement or completion of Math 131. Math 151 is our standard Calculus 1 course. Math 131 is elementary calculus. So you must meet those requirements or the system will just not be able to recognize that a prerequisite has been met. Finally, if you received an approval from someone in an academic department already to change a placement, please forward that email exchange to your academic advisor so that they can have that for record keeping. And this will be helpful if they're were to be any changes made in September with schedules or during add drop period. Okay, so moving on to slide 13, we now have like an idea of what the placement results look like. We know how to access them. We know how to see what they are, get us an idea of some of those classes we're taking. So now we can better prepare for the pre-registration week. Okay, so ideally you would have met with your academic advisor by now to talk about your classes, what your interests are here, and just in general, welcome to University of Chicago. If you haven't met yet, I highly recommend meeting with them as soon as possible so that you have someone to talk with about those autumn quarter classes. And yeah, seeing if they have time to meet before pre-registration week ends. All incoming students are required to meet with their academic advisor over the summer. If you have not had the chance to meet yet, just as a warning, a hold is placed on accounts by Friday, September 4th for students who have not had their summer advising meeting, which would then prevent students from add drop period. So just as a heads up with all of that too. So, but if you are unable to participate in pre-registration process next week due to the lack of internet access, poor service, or for whatever reason, what might come up, let your advisor know and include the information about what classes you're thinking of so that they can still be aware of your options too. Okay, and to register for autumn, you will need to identify some courses of interest. The search starts in the My Classes portal in My U Chicago, which we'll go over too. Um, you will find your placement result on the homepage of My U Chicago. And then if you click on My Classes, that's where you can navigate to the search feature to find some classes. My Classes is the site where we have all of the information about the course options for the upcoming quarter, including class dates, times, locations, and total seats available. Um, and you can also read about the course in the description and hear a little bit more about like the overall summary and description of the course. Okay, so if you go into My U Chicago, or if you still have that open, if you hover to the right side of your page and click on My Classes, um, you'll be able to go in and start searching for classes. And this is an example of a class that we have available. So these different arrows are pointing to different features of the class itself. So we can see in the course title, there is American Sign Language 1. And we can see that that course code is ASLG10100. And it's specifically in section 2. That -2 is to indicate the section. And you can see on the right hand, or actually, sorry, the left hand side, it's taught by Professor David Reinhardt, and the course will meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting at 11:30. And you can tell this is an autumn quarter class, even just by the time frame. It has the dates of an autumn quarter from a few years ago. So, and it also will say the location as well. Some classes may still say TBD for the instructor or to be announced TBA for the instructor and the location, but that'll be in there by the start of autumn quarter. We also see that at the very top, kind of by the course code again, this class is tagged as an in-person course. We do not offer remote classes during the academic year over summer, just something to be aware of. And then you can also see that this class is listed as open in that green box. You may come across classes where it says closed or other indicators like that. So please pay attention to that as you're searching for classes as well. So there are many other things that we could note on this page, but just for the sake of time, we'll continue on. But I highly recommend looking carefully within My Classes, explore, use the filter system as well to filter for core classes, and then ask your academic advisor for any follow-up questions you might have. Okay, so beyond this webinar, we also have some other pre-registration resources that are available for you to assist you during the course selection process. So if you haven't yet, please make sure to watch the core curriculum webinar and then the preparing for pre-registration Canvas module as well. So you all have been added into our academic advising Canvas module in July. So you should be in there. I'm sure many of you completed our incoming summer meeting surveys. So we will have modules in there as well, focusing on pre-registration, which will also have walks through with navigating my classes and identifying ways to identify some course of interest and build a schedule too. We also have a really helpful new student advising website, and there are QR codes here so you can scan those. Visit those websites and visit the resources we have available for you all to navigate and learn more about classes and options here. We also have a YouTube page where we have some tutorials on how to navigate the college catalog and different department websites. So you can go through, watch some of those quick videos. We also have guides on how to build a plan of study too that can be really helpful as you're thinking about autumn quarter classes. Okay. And same thing with add drop resources too. So just a reminder, add drop opens for incoming transfer students on Tuesday, September 8th at 9 a.m. And then add drop will open for incoming first year students on September 10th. If you have plans to add Writing 101 during your autumn quarter and plans to take that, you would be adding Writing 101 during add drop period. The reason we have it set up this way is that every section has its own topic, and we want to make sure you choose a topic that is most interesting to you. And the best way to do this is during add drop period. So you will not see Writing 101 as an option for pre-registration. You will only have the ability to do that during add drop period. So that's something to keep in mind there. But otherwise, other things that you can do to prepare for add drop period. We will also have a module in Canvas about this process. So it'll review how students can adjust their schedules during this period. Also includes information on if you come across something with instructor consent or a wait list. And then we also have a YouTube video about how you can, it's a literal walkthrough of how to add, drop, swap, or request classes. Okay, so now I am going to turn it over to Emily Ho to then do a site demonstration of the system for pre-registration itself.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. All right. All right. Hopefully everyone should be able to see my screen now. And firstly, to introduce myself, my name is Emily Ho. I'm the Associate University Registrar for Enrollment Services over at the University Registrar's Office. So what I'm going to do for you today is just kind of demo some of those pre-reg processes that Catherine was talking about. My first caveat is I'm showing you what we would call a demonstration environment. So when you log in, it will look slightly different. The colors will be different. You might not have the exact same bars because we use this demo environment to test a bunch of stuff, but the gist of it will be pretty much the same. So when you log in, you'll see this landing page. Like Catherine said, you'll see a welcome message here. You can click over to see test results, which will have any AP scores that you've sent in, as well as any placements. So when pre-registration is open next week, you're going to want to go to the right-hand menu bar and click that autumn quarter pre-registration button. That will take you out to another window. And the first thing that you'll see in that window is the first year survey. So again, just to another caveat here, these questions aren't going to impact your abilities to get into a class. Some of them are not required. This is really just information gathering. Your academic advisor will see what you answer to these questions and will just be useful information for them. So questions include, are you interested in career and health professions? Yes or no? How many units you intend to register for autumn, 300 or 400? And then you're able to list if you want your primary academic interests here. Again, it does not matter what you put here. This isn't going to impact your ability to get into any other courses. This is just information gathering, and you're welcome to go back and change these answers at any point during the week. Once you've answered those, just go ahead and go to next, and that will take you into the first year pre-registration module. So a few things to point out here. There are ample instructions, as you can see on the top. Be sure to read through those thoroughly. This will also link out to useful resources such as the college catalog, the pre-registration FAQ, and that class search page. You also have a few buttons up at the top, which are going to be useful. You can hit that to go back to the survey questions if you want to go back and change them. You can hit view test results, and that will take you to a summary of your test results kind of right there, so you don't have to navigate out. And then a few other buttons that we'll go to a little later. So for pre-registration, there are two different things that you have to rank. The first are the general category of course, or buckets as we call them. So these are the different categories of courses that you're going to be picking from. You have humanities, mathematical sciences, languages, physical sciences, biological sciences, arts, civilization, and other. As you can see, you are able to skip any of those groups. If you know, for example, that you definitely don't want to take bio in autumn, hit skip group, that'll gray it out. You do not have the option to skip humanities. That is required for all students. So what you're going to want to do is once you're in here, go ahead and rank these in order of how much you want them, or skip them if you're not interested in taking that course. Let's do rank all of these just for the sake of it. Bio will rank A, but we can skip it. Once you do that, you want to go up to the top and hit save and sort. So this will sort those in the order that you rank them as far as what you're most interested in. And then we'll show you, then we'll populate with where you can request the specific courses. So let's say humanities is the course that you are most interested in taking and want to prioritize above everything else, and we rank that 1. Once you hit save and sort, you'll be able to go in and click a search button, and this will take you into another page that will show you all of the available humanities options. So this is kind of a pared down version of what you would see in the course search that Catherine is showing you. So if you want a little more detail as far as the descriptions of the courses, go back to that course search page. But you do get some basic information here, such as the course title, how many students are already in it, if available, the staff or the instructor, and then the time it's being taught. So let's just say that Hume 110 is your number one choice. Go ahead and hit add. It will say, are you sure? It'll say yes, and then we'll go there. For humanities, you are required, no matter what, to rank at least 8 different sequences. We would encourage you to rank a few different ones. Even if reading and world lit is your number one, go ahead and rank a few different sections of that. But we would also recommend that maybe you would throw in your second choice. Let's say philosophical perspectives is your second. Go ahead and add that as a backup. So go ahead and again, rank the ones you want most top, but we would encourage that you add a little bit of a variety, just in case one of the sequences that you're requesting is really popular and fills up fast. So for these, again, you have to go through and rank at least 8. I know there are a few transfer students who will be taking Hume this summer. Because it is required, we would just recommend that you go through and rank Hume as your last choice, because then it will most likely not register you in that. But if you do have questions about that, talk to your academic advisor. Once you have these in here, you can always change the rankings. So if you decide that you actually want section 10 ranked number 1, you can flip that to number 1. It will reshuffle. If you hit save and sort, that will reshuffle these in that priority order. Similarly with the buckets, if you decide that actually language is your top choice, you can rearrange those buckets by renumbering up here. And that will, again, reshuffle and rank it in order. Let's go down to math. So one thing to point out, like Catherine said, if you don't have a placement into the math section you're requesting, it won't register you in it. You can technically request any of it, but once we start the registration process, it will error out, so it'll be a waste of a request. So you're not going to be able to sneak through by requesting something that you don't have placement for. Our system will stop it at the moment of registration. So just really pay attention that you're requesting the correct placement. So for this, let's just add a few here. And you can go through and make those changes. I know we had some questions that Justin answered about whether it's time sensitive. This is not time sensitive at all. Nothing is looked at as far as the registration during that first or during the week of pre-reg. And it's random when we run the resolution process the next week where you're placed into courses. It is randomly assigned. So it doesn't matter whether you submit at, right away 9 a.m. Monday or 5 p.m. Friday. The order is decided later, unrelated to when you submit. Once you have all the rankings in, there's a few things you can do. Again, save and sort will save what you have and reshuffle if you change those rankings. It is kind of a lot of screen and a lot of scrolling. So if you want to go to summarized ranks, that will pull out another screen that has a nice recap of what you've ranked and how. But once you're all ready, you can go ahead and hit submit, and you'll see that the selections are submitted, and you'll get an email confirming that your choices have been submitted. If you change your mind after you hit submit, that is totally fine. Just go back in, change whatever you wanted, add your course, drop your course, and then resubmit, and that will replace your old submission. So you can, again, make changes anytime that week. We just want to remind everyone to make sure you hit submit before 5 p.m. on Friday. If you submit multiple times during the week, again, that's totally fine, but our system will only record the last submission that you do. I think that is pretty much it for the demo. Again, just as a reminder, the first thing you're going to do is rank those buckets overall. And then after you do that, you're going to hit save and sort, and that will take you into the step where you can actually go in and pick the specific courses. All right, I will hand it back over to Catherine.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for showing us, Emily. It's always helpful to see like what the system looks like and yeah, what we're working with. So, okay, I'm gonna re-share my screen again, just as we continue on through this presentation. Okay. Okay, I think you should be able to see my screen now. So, I can see lots of questions have been coming in. That's great. I know Justin's also been working hard to respond to all of them too. So, yeah, that's great. Thanks for asking so many questions. We will have another kind of longer Q&A session where we actually talk about them at the end of the session, but I did want to put in the final reminders about some upcoming dates. So, of course, pre-registration is open next week, like what we've been talking about. If anyone is interested in like a pre-health field, maybe if it's medical school or veterinary sciences or anything like that, we will have a webinar in partnership with Careers in Health through Career Advancement on August 27th. Like what we said before, schedules will be finalized on September 4th, so just be aware of that. And then there's also some upcoming dates about some ad drop times like what we had talked about too. So you'll get more reminders about ad drop period. So you'll receive communication later on as well. Okay, so that leads us to the end of our presentation. We covered a lot of information, and I'm sure there are many questions left still. We may have questions that are specific to your placement exam results or to like your specific plan at UChicago. So we'll try to avoid going in depth on like personal, like situational questions. We'll try to keep things a little bit more general and broad. But you have your academic advisor, and you are always welcome to email them with any questions you might have coming up, especially before pre-registration as well. And if anything else, we have our general advising inbox, as well as a link to our Instagram. Okay, so let's see, we can take a look at some Q&As. Justin, were there some questions that maybe you wanted to ask that could be like kind of a nice like general overview of things coming up and we can answer them.
Yeah, I saw a question on there. Can you go more into like writing 101 and benefits for that or the differences or if there's any value in taking maroon track versus gray track?
Yeah, yes. So, and that is something that we're kind of in this transition period with it right now with writing. So, different humanities sequences are paired with different writing options. So, we are kind of bringing on board the maroon track, which is writing 101. Um, and in previous years, we've kind of focused mainly on the gray track. We've only had the gray track, but now we're offering two right now, but then by next academic year, that incoming class will all take maroon track. So still in this transition period right now, but different humanities sequences are paired with being either in the maroon track or in the gray track. So when you think about your humanities class, it's also important to think about this writing component and whether you may want to be in maroon or gray. So for the um, that requirement, the Writing 101 course is called Inquiry, Conversation, Argument, and this is paired with five topic sequences that we have in humanities, and those are media aesthetics, philosophical perspectives, Greece and Rome, human being and the citizen, and reading cultures. So students interested in one of those sequences would need to do Writing 101 at some point in their first year. The gray track would have poetry and the human, language and the human, and then readings in world literature. With these classes, for the gray track, students would be part of a 0 unit kind of writing seminar workshop class. Uh, that would meet about like, around 3 times in an academic quarter where they go over some writing in those ways. You would be in this writing seminar 0 unit class in autumn and winter quarter while you're alongside your humanities. The maroon track, which is the Writing 101, on the other hand, that class is worth 100 units, like a regular class at U Chicago. And you would then could have the choice to be in an in autumn quarter alongside your humanities then, or if you wanted to wait winter quarter, you could take it. There's some flex, it doesn't have to be an autumn quarter. If you do have questions about that or what could be a good choice for you, I highly recommend emailing your academic advisor. We also have a really helpful module on Canvas as well in the advising page that goes over this. It also has the breakdown of which humanities topic is in, maroon or gray. So you can look at that too. So you have some of those resources with you already. But yeah, otherwise, good question.
Catherine, I've also been seeing like a lot of, how should I know if I want to take 3 or 4 courses in my first quarter? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about of like, as you're adjusting to college and just getting used to the transition and balancing, college classes of how you might want to prioritize and manage your time in this kind of new chapter of life too. Um, for a lot of students, there are, they might choose to start in 3 or then up it to 4 in winter quarter or try out 4 and see how it goes. Um, if anything, one thing you can think about is what are maybe some of your time commitments that you might be thinking about or anticipating that could be outside of class. So if you have a part-time job or if you really want to be involved in some student organizations on campus, um, or anything like that, you will want to be mindful of that, just like with your timing and schedule with classes too. Some students I've also had start in 4 classes and see what they think about the 4, maybe in the first 3 weeks. And like what we talked about, if maybe that fourth class is taking time away from some other aspect of like a prior commitment or anything like that, you can drop that fourth class in the first 3 weeks of the quarter. But keep in mind, you will need to have humanities on your schedule because that is a requirement for all incoming first years.
Yeah, Catherine, I've also been seeing a lot of like, I forgot to do my placements or I'm taking like higher level placements and stuff. How do I know what to take? Because those results might not be out yet.
Yeah, so we should get those. If you took them, like the placement exam results, thanks for taking them. We'll get those results soon. Um, Yeah, and then we'll, be able to decide like, what classes you can go in, whether it's during add drop period that maybe something is added. It's instead, especially if it's maybe like chemistry or like a language or something. We will be having those higher level math placement exams, if students were eligible for that, or like advanced placement for chemistry. So be on the lookout within your emails of like when those will be. I do have the dates to those. I think the advanced placement or chemistry one was September 3rd. But you'll be added into a Canvas page for those if you haven't already. And you'll receive more communication about them too. Those departments will also be in contact with you, especially with the higher level math placement exam and the chemistry department based on what results you will receive. In the meantime, if you anticipate, like, let's say you took the higher level math placement exam, or you have plans to take that and you want to maybe have like a math class as kind of like a placeholder for now, knowing that that might change later on based on those results, you can do so.
Great, Catherine. Uh, I've been seeing a lot of questions about, can we see specific sections like times and instructors, and why do some classes only say like staff?
Yeah. So some of that is set up that way of just uh they'll just be assigned later. We're, still over a month out from the start of autumn quarter, so some of that is still just waiting to be assigned. Um, so yeah, you might see that some of it still says staff for like humanities or maybe like some math classes here and there. No worries, that'll be coming, and you'll be able to see those instructors soon. Um, yeah, and but otherwise you can choose your classes based on the timings of them, of like what timing works best in your schedule of um especially with humanities, there's plenty of times and plenty of sections available there too. So choose on timing and what works best for you, and then the instructor will be added in later.
Oh, I guess I've been seeing a lot of questions on like, what groups should I skip or what groups should I um, definitely sign up for, or where should I put rank humanities? Like any general guidance on that, Catherine?
Yeah, a lot of it can just be based on like personal preference of like if you are, of course, you'll have humanities that you have to do, and that's definitely one of those options. I would recommend taking math in your autumn quarter and starting that process as well too, just because depending on majors, calculus may be a prerequisite for taking more advanced major classes um, later on too. So that's something to be mindful as well. Um, so yeah, otherwise, choose based on like what you're most interested in. I would prioritize or like think about like with humanities, especially if there's a time that you're most inclined to take or most interested in. That's something to be aware of uh, just as you're making these selections too. So maybe Emily, would you be able to talk more about like how like with like general chemistry or physics, like what the lab process would look like for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're requesting the course for courses that have a lab component or a discussion component, for pre-registration, the only thing you're actually requesting is the lecture. And so you don't get to pick your specific lab, but what happens is when we start the registration process after pre-reg closes, when it reaches your request and it puts you in a course, it will then place you in a lab that fits with your schedule. So it will go by lecture. Say you ranked Chem 113, section 1 first, you get into that. It will then pick out from those available labs the one that will fit best with the schedule so that you don't have any conflicts with other courses that you're already enrolled in. If the lab that it assigns ends up being one that isn't at an ideal time, or if you decide later you want to switch, that's something that you can do directly during add drop. You can switch labs or switch sections. But for pre-registration, you don't actually pick the lab or say or discussion section. You just pick the lecture, and then our registration process, when we run it, will select a lab for you.
Okay, awesome. And then going off of that too, with the pre-registration system, like how might the timings work? So like let's say I put a 10:30 humanities at my, like first number one ranking there, and then also a 10:30 for math and my number two. What would happen?
Another great question. So you will not be registered in courses that meet at the same time or have a time conflict. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't request two courses that meet at the same time in case you want to do one as a backup. That's totally fine. But if you put in, say, 4 requests and every single course meets at 10:30, you'll get enrolled in one course. The others will see that there's a time conflict and it will cause an error. So if your number one course is a 10:30 class, probably the course that you want second most, you should pick something that meets at a different time. But we do encourage you to pick backup times as well. So again, if, for example, no matter what, the humanities you want to take more than anything is poetry and the human, and you don't really care what time you take it, we would recommend selecting a few different sections of poetry and the human that meet at different times, so you have a higher chance of getting into it in your schedule. So it is something to keep in mind, but because you're going to be requesting backups and second choices, it's fine to request courses that do meet at the same time. Just know that the system will not register you in both courses.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Justin, was there another
Um,
one that came up or?
uh, yeah, a lot of great questions. I'm sorry if we can't get to all of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of good questions. Um, Sorry, maybe Emily, another follow-up with you
Mhm.
about the like chemistry labs or like any class that might have a lab with it. If there is a time conflict potentially with a lab within a class, like would that still prevent a student then from getting into the course, even if it looks like the lecture matches up okay with the timing?
S- Um, so it will kind of depend on how you rank it and which order it goes through. If you're enrolled in a course, that say you're enrolled in a Hume course and then also a chemistry course, and the chemistry course has a bunch of different labs, some of which will conflict with Hume and some of which won't. You won't be registered in one that conflicts with something you're already enrolled in. So if you're registered in Hume and then it's looking at your chemistry, it will only register you in that in a lab that doesn't conflict. So it's not going to leave you in chemistry without a lab, and it's not going to do something where the lecture fits with your schedule, but the lab conflicts. If it's something where every lab conflicts with the course you're already enrolled in, it will skip that and look at the next choice that you've submitted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Catherine, we've gotten some questions about some classes saying closed or instructor consent only. What does that mean?
Yes. So if you do see a class where it says closed, or maybe you're looking at my classes and it shows that it's at capacity of like maybe 25 out of 25 are in the class, that means that the class is full. They're not accepting any more seats right now. And there's a good chance it just would not, be on pre-registration. How it works is that our continuing students, so like second years, third years, fourth years, already registered for classes earlier this summer. So they were already able to add into some of these classes. So that's where you may come across not being able to add into a closed class. So sometimes it does happen where you do see a closed class in pre-registration. And you technically still have the option to select it. I would not, just because it is closed and that would just not give you that spot into the class. Um, Instructor consent, you may come across that in the class search as well, of like when you're searching for different classes. Instructor consent will also not go through pre-registration. So you would not, because it is an instructor consent class, the instructor reviews the enrollment and determines if someone is added. A little caveat to that, though, is that humanities, if you're in my classes and you're in the class search feature there, it technically has instructor consent as a little blurb, just because these are reserved for first year students. So we set it up intentionally that way. So we have that open for first year students for next week. So if you're doing some advanced research, looking at things, you might see that in there. That's the reason why. There are also two Econ 100 sections that say instructor consent, and it's for the same reasons where those sections are reserved for incoming students. Otherwise, be wary about some other instructor consent sections. If anything, always ask your academic advisor if you come across a class um, and you want to talk it through with them too. All
Catherine,
right, maybe we have time for like two more questions, two or three.
yeah, Catherine, can you just go over real quick how registration for Writing 101 works? How you get into that and if you want.
Yes. So writing 101, I said it earlier in the presentation, only during ad drop period. You are not able to rank writing 101 during pre-registration. And the reason we have it set up this way is because every writing 101 section has its own topic that we want students to be able to choose and read more about when they're making these selections during ad drop period. One thing I will say, I'm just going to quickly get the link for this because it is really nice to be able to read these descriptions, see what's available. It's exciting to think of the options with this too. So let's see. And Justin, if you're able to find it first, I'm just trying to find these descriptions, but otherwise you'll add it during ad drop period. And that way you'll be able to try out the ad drop system as well and test that out, which is also a really great practice too. So, yep, that'll happen then. And let me go ahead and try and find the link to all of the really cool class descriptions. Hmm. But Justin, if you wanted to ask another question, or if Emily, yeah, go for it. I'm just going to try and find this quickly.
I see a few questions about taking 3 or 4 classes. That mostly will defer to advising, but I will say that the pre-registration system will try no matter what to place you in a minimum of 300 units because that's the minimum required. However, if you don't rank a lot of courses and your first choices fill up, it is possible that it will finish with putting you in 200 units, but that's not something you should panic about because your advisor will be taking a look at that as well. I think it's always a good option to register or request more courses than you think you're going to take. It's very easy to drop a course if you decide you don't want it during the ad drop period. And it might be a little more difficult to get into it if it's very popular.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And then I just put in some links in the chat about the writing 101, so you can read more about that too and the writing options. But awesome. Well, it looks like we are at time, so I'll pass it over to Caitlin again. But yeah, thank you all so much for attending and asking these great questions. Yeah, and we're excited to help you with next week.
Well, thank you so much again to our presenters and everyone who attended today. If you do have further questions or some specific questions, like Catherine mentioned, definitely make sure to reach out to your assigned advisor. These assignments should be communicated to you near the end of the month if they have not been already. I'm assuming most of you have been meeting with your advisors to kind of talk through pre-registration and things like that. If you do have questions, though, they did share their email again, collegeadvising@uchicago.edu. And I will go ahead and put that in the chat as well so that you all have that email address. Again, they'd be happy to answer any other like specific questions too, that may contain or may pertain to your, specific situation or specific placement test results and things like that. In terms of orientation, please visit our orientation website, which is just orientation.uchicago.edu to learn more about our upcoming webinars. And that is also where you can find the link to this recording. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone.